Badger fans, let's talk about the unreal potential depth in the defense backroom. Plus, who are the 25 recruits that we cannot wait to see senior film on? Locked On Badgers, a great guest. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Badger fans, what is going on? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Harings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you're listening, time is the most valuable thing we all have. So thank you so much for giving us a tiny part of it. Today's episode brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Brand new mobile game, completely free, no ads, 100% playable offline. You get to be the head coach. Use promo code Locked On College Football, Locked On CFB, all caps, inside the game starter. Receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. And man, as always, I am stoked to bring on Nic Osen. We got to hang out in Platteville, and I can confirm he is every bit as cool as he seems online. So always good to have Nic on. 247. Nic, let's start here because again, we don't waste time when we get the great guests on. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I think this is a fascinating topic. We have most of that 2025 class locked up, at least verbally locked up. Who are the kids? Because high school football is now rolling. Who are the kids you cannot wait to see senior film on in this class? Give me your first one.
Ryan, man, thank you for having me. I just want to note real quick to those that have not met you, our guy is as cool and honestly even nicer in person. So very grateful for you, man. We had some fun in Platteville. So, first name, I'm going to go with one that that we may have in common just for like a big reason. I've actually got an in-state kid. I've got Michael Roeske as one of the ones I really want to see. Not only is he local, not only is he a great player, good rating, but coming back from injury. So really intrigued to see almost that sophomore to senior jump rather than junior season because he got hurt pretty early midway through the year.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the ones we'd have on both of our lists. I can't wait to see him play. I'm hoping to get to see him play in person.
Yeah.
I think he's a big upside guy that we don't fully know because of the injury. And this was a player that was on the precipice of getting some big time offers. And then that injury kind of kept some schools away, but big frame. I mean, I was talking to Hardy Watts, had him on the show. Logan Powell, I apologize, had him on the show. And Logan Powell's like, look, that's a big dude. Logan Powell's a big guy. And Logan Powell's like, no, Roeske's a big guy. I am not a big guy. Roeske is a man. And I can't wait to see him play. One of my all-time favorite quotes from a recruit I've had on the show, he talked about one of his favorite parts about playing offensive lineman is making small guys fly through the air. Like he's wired the right way, big physical in-state kid. Yes, 100%. He's on my list. Let me give you the next one. This is another one I feel like we may overlap on. I want to get those out of the way. Maybe not. In-state Torin Pettaway. For multiple reasons, not a lot of football, right, in the background. This is a player, when you just look at if you go to like the template of make a player in a video game, you're like, I want a 6'5", 290-pound defensive lineman. He looks that's him. And if the skills come along, I think the raw athleticism's there. If some of the other pieces come along, I think this is a potential 4-star type talent in state at a position of massive need. Torin Pettaway's film, I can't wait to see.
Completely agree. Now, we can only choose 4 or 5 for this. So he was not a name here, but absolutely. I mean, he's somebody – I actually did a national story with our guy Tom Loy, and he was one of 2 players that I said could be very underrated in the class, kind of for that same reasoning, Ryan. So I'm with you. I'll go that same wavelength right now. This is a guy I do not think enough people are talking about, and that I believe in this system under this development could potentially be playing on Sundays. And that's Jamari Washington. Morgan Park, Chicago area corner. My readers know I'm super high on him. And you know what? I'm going to give you a little nugget here, Ryan. So if there are people on here and on my boards, I guess they'll hear it here first. I'll be putting it there soon. But I will be seeing Jamari as well as 2026 target Nasir Rankin, the Morgan Park guys, on the team next week. Fortunately, it's going to be fun. Badgers play Friday night. I'm going to get up early Saturday, head down to Chicago to see those DBs play.
Oh, I love it. Can't wait to hear about that. Just grinding, man. I love it. Yeah, he's awesome. His film is really good, really physical, right? For a high school defensive back.
And athletic. Like he can get up.
No, I love his film. That's a great one, man. Again, not on my list. We were limited to a few names here.
Yep.
Samuel Lateju for me is my next guy up.
Nice.
I
Nice.
I put this out on a show, so this isn't the first time people have heard this, but I talked to somebody kind of in the program, and they said this is the type of kid who could walk into 130 Division I programs in the country and get 130 offers. That was the direct quote. Again, much like Pettaway, he has not played a lot of football. Came from overseas, is relatively new to the States, went to a really good program. Coach Sykes, I think you and I both know Coach Sykes.
Yep. Awesome.
Developer of men, huge physical frame, skill set. I can't wait to see him play. And much like Pettaway, I think the sky's the limit if the skills kind of fit into what the athleticism is there.
Phenomenal pick. Truly, man. I mean, it's fun to think not only, go back and forth, but some of these names, like I've been working on, kind of some prep stuff, and it's been so long just because they've gotten so many great guys in this class. So here's one I'm a little bit surprised we're this far into the list. Maybe it's because he is a little bit more polished, but still highest rated player, one of the best in the country, just made our 247 Sports Freaks list, and that's linebacker Mason Posa.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you – so here's a question on Posa, and I want to kick it back to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've already seen the explosiveness. We've seen versatility. We've seen him in coverage. We've seen him be disruptive. What are you looking for specifically on his senior film outside of just pure destruction? Outside of just like having fun watching an amazing football player, what are you watching for?
Yeah, just because I personally think that he's good enough and has the athleticism and range enough to play at any linebacker spot. That's just my view. That's not what I'm projecting or anything. I want to see, more opportunities for him in coverage, and then just more of kind of that pass rushing prowess because it's already there. We've seen it. I've seen it a ton, watching that junior film. Like sometimes I had to go back and watch the tape. Like he's just so impressive. But I just love to see kind of that further abundance. And as we know, the Big Ten's offenses are changing a little bit, and linebackers will have to get in coverage, which again, he certainly has the speed, athleticism to do. I mean, he can do it all, but I'd be intrigued and excited to see more of that for his potential. Who's your next one, sir?
Yeah, I have Remington Moss. Again, here's a guy who committed early. Much to your point, like you start to almost lose track, not lose track, but you almost forget about watching some of their film as more and more recruits come in. And Moss is one of the first guys in the class. And you're talking about he's 6'2". Like he's 6'2". He's well built, physical, really tackles, runs pretty well. They're going to at least toy with the idea of playing him at corner at some time of big boundary corner, but maybe he's more of a safety, maybe he's more of a dollar. You just can't get enough 6'2" guys with physicality that can run and that can hit and that can catch the ball. I really liked the film when I first saw it. I'm still really high on it. I think he's one of those guys much like maybe I'm trying to think of the guy last year's class. I'm sleeping on it, but he's a guy that doesn't get talked about enough, I think, and it's probably because he was a little early in the commitment cycle. But I think a big upside there for Remington Moss in the secondary.
I'm breaking the rules here. We said 3 or 4.
No, go.
I'm going to get that up to 5. So I'm going to give 2 here. I'm holding back on 1 because I'm pretty sure you're going to say it, or we've said it on this show. So one of my favorite interviews in the class, one of my highest ceilings, I believe, Luke Emmerich, Monticello, Minnesota. Man, I put out a story on him this week, and just so fun to talk to. Ryan, he's going to be playing like legitimately 5 to 6 different positions this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like he told me, obviously like some rover, some safety, that's expected. But then he mentioned receiver, in the slot, quarterback. He mentioned another one as well. I'm forgetting, but like it's really intriguing. And again, like Michael Roeske from in-state, he was hurt, last year. And I know that, some of our joint readers, some similar people that we speak with, have kind of been really intrigued to see like, yo, he's so athletic. Like he got all of these offers. Let's see the film coming up. So I'm really, really excited to see what he can do. I know he's excited to get out there, Ryan. And then just a guy that I've really enjoyed getting to know a little bit with him and his family, seeing a practice out there as well in Indianapolis, Eugene Hilton Jr.
Yeah, that's a great one. And you did really good work covering that recruitment and that commitment. Those are phenomenal. Like Emmerich, I talked to him, and you're dead on. Like one of the most enjoyable people to talk about, and really unique physical skills as well. Like another guy has a lot of athletic upside. And then Hilton, just for what this team needs from that receiver spot going forward, he think potentially fits some of that. And then obviously the bloodlines there just add intrigue. But the last
Ryan,
one,
how fun is this class, man? How fun is this?
I feel like I segmented off one part of the show for this part, and I feel like I should have given two, right?
Oh,
Because
we could go at least 20.
there's so many names here. Because I still want to. Another game we talked about this too, and Landyn Locke. I want to see what the quarterback looks like.
That was the one I held. I knew you'd say it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but like, how are we not talking about him? He's the quarterback at a 5A Texas school who apparently is a bigger, stronger version of Braden Locke potentially, right? That's at least what kind of talking to his coach, talking to some people around the program, they're really high on him. And there's a chance for him to move up the rankings. He got a little bigger, a little more consistent, but yeah, absolutely. He's the quarterback. Of course I want to see him.
It's a big fall for him. I was very fortunate. I think I said it on our friend's show, Bucky Report, but I got to see him throw a little bit. Here in Madison, he came up for it's like around I think OB weekend or something, and he just came out with his brother Braden and some of the quarterbacks in town. Yeah, Ryan, that size is legit. The frame is legit. He can spin it. I'm not curious. I'm very intrigued to see more of what he can do against that type of competition, like you mentioned. I want to continue to see, some of that mobility. Just like Braden kind of added some more mobility since last season. I think he himself would say that. So no, it's really exciting. I mean, I feel like we said I think 10 or 11 different names, legitimate different reasons, and there's still a whole 11, 10, 11, 12 other guys that we didn't mention. I mean, quite honestly, we're not even like overhyping it though. I mean, we'll see what the ratings end up compared to 2024, but just the versatility, to me, athleticism, and then a couple high ceiling guys. I think this class is going to be a blast, just like we have seen with our own eyes, the class of 2024 already making waves.
Yeah, they look pretty good, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Listen, we could go up. Brendan Haynes. I want to Telemock. I want to see his film. Clayton.
I almost said Wilnerson, who actually had his debut for his new school a couple days ago. I believe they got a dominant victory, but yeah, we'll have to check on that. Yeah, he's somebody I'll mention just because we're on the class. I went and saw Cooper Catalano at Germantown, practice up a few days ago. They're starting the season. I mean, just the amount of impact guys, Ryan, it's really intriguing. I know I'm super high on Cam Miller, and I want to see what he can do because he's somebody like Eugene that I feel like these guys could potentially play on the earlier side. So we'll see. Super exciting class.
Dude, I love it. All right, we got to take a quick break. We're going to come back, talk DB room and upside. I'm going to put a question out here that I asked someone else, but I'm curious on Nic's take. So I'm going to let this stew over the commercial break so we can think about it. Over under defensive backs that play this year that get drafted in the NFL next year for the Badgers, 2.5. Do the Badgers have more than 2 defensive backs get drafted next year? We're going to get his answer coming back after this commercial break. For our friends of the show over at Ultimate College Football, again, this is the number one spot if you want to run your own college football program. Like, this is where you want to go. You can be the head coach. That's what I love about it. You can be Paul Chryst. You can be Gary Anderson if you want to, and implement Tanner McAvoy at the quarterback spot. Whatever you want to do, you can do that over at Ultimate College Football Quarterback. It is 100% free, ad-free, and you can play offline. You be the coach. You set the philosophy of the program. It is incredibly fun. It's something I've done. I've downloaded it. It's on my phone. It's great for if you want to just nerd out a little bit more on college football. And quite frankly, who doesn't? Who doesn't want to do that? To download the game, just visit ultimatecollegefootball-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com. Look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, let's get back with Nic. Let's get his answer to this because I think it's really interesting, right? I'll just let you answer the question first. Then I want to get into the impacts of it. Over under Badger defensive backs, cornerbacks, or safeties getting drafted next year, 2.5.
Over.
Right?
Yeah. So Hunter Waller's a lock. That's not a hot take. Obviously, knock on wood here, like everybody stays healthy, things like that. But he's a lock. Would have been drafted I believe by like round 4 or so last year, maybe 3. Can get a little bit higher. It's a good safety class, but I mean, we know how legit he is. Ricardo Hallman would have been picked maybe, a little bit later. Obviously, that was like his breakout season, but from what I've seen, when he's been healthy, he's going to be even better. I believe Coach Paul Haynes said that too when we spoke with him at fall camp. And then I personally think that like whoever you see the most reps from, now they can play different spots, but like Nazir Forkurian or RJ Delancey, I would lean more Nazir just because like that size, the way he's filled out, like those are really nice traits in the current NFL. As we know, when you
Mhm.
think of a guy, you think of some of the Seattle corners, or obviously Sauce Gardner in New York with the Luke Fickle and Cincinnati connection. They like size. It is trending that way in the NFL. That's why I know, and I'll touch on this player in a couple minutes, why I know we both are high on and excited about Amari Snowden's potential long term. So, things like that. But in answer to this question, Ryan, I would have to go over. I think slightly. I'm not going to overhype it. I think it would probably end up being 3. I'd have a bit of a hard time maybe seeing 4 in one season just at those spots. But what do you think?
I went over too. I think it's 3, and I wonder if I could also potentially sell you on a Max Lofi getting picked. If he plays kinda like a version of what we've seen in spring and in fall, he's got enough size, he's a veteran guy, he runs pretty well. I think there's even a chance he could, but let's just kick it at 3, and let's say Lofi just has a good year, maybe he's an
Mm-hmm.
UDFA he picks on at a camp somewhere. What is the implications if I suddenly tell you you have 3 NFL defensive backs and we love these edge rushers? Like, you start to think about what this defense could be if you have 3 NFL caliber defensive backs, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, without a doubt you do. And I think that kind of hits on, Ryan, a little bit of what I wrote on earlier this week. I don't do a ton of like macro type pieces, in the recruiting world. I like the day to day, man. I love the grind. This is who we're talking to. This is who the Badgers play next week. But I legitimately wrote this defense could be one of the best in the country. And those aren't just my words. Obviously, like coaches and staff, they speak highly of their team or the other side within the team. But man, I swear to you, I think this was before you got over to Platteville, but we spoke with Coach Spalding. You might have been there already.
I was there
And
for Spalding, yeah.
yeah, and I believe he called the defense like we practice against like the best defense in the country. I believe he said that or something to that effect, just kind of within how good they are. So that's not a shock. I mean, I've written it since April, man. I think legitimately though, when you take a step back, you look at the schedule. Because I was saying some things like top 10-ish unit, and I do believe they can be that good, but the numbers may not show it. When you're facing USC on the road, Bama comes here, Oregon. So I think a top 13 to 15 units, very possible. That's not crazy, I don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are still continued questions with the defense line depth, but I think when you look at the linebackers as a whole and you look at the secondary, you look at the cornerbacks, you look at the safety depth, I think it could be a really good unit. I really do, and I've honestly been getting a little more and more bullish on it, and the more I've been thinking about it, I'm like, "Listen, there's a chance.
Yeah.
Let's just extend this a little bit," right? We talked about the corners and DBs. There's a chance Jaheim Thomas gets picked, Pius gets
Oh,
picked,
God, yeah.
Lowry's a potential borderline-ish NFL guy, but suddenly, if you think those cornerbacks and that safety is gonna get drafted, you could be talking about 4 or 5 NFL guys on this defense. Well, if you got 4 or 5 NFL guys on the defense, even if one of them's not a top 10 pick, like, you have a legit college football defense, period. End of stop.
Oh,
Like, end of
yeah.
paragraph.
I mean, Ryan, I think Jaheim's a lock.
Mhm.
I believe who else is gonna get a lot of run? I guess, yeah, they wouldn't leave, like, next year, but I think some of these younger guys are locks too. But just in terms of next year, yeah, Wooler, Hallman, Jaheim. If John Pius can do what we think he can do,
He's getting
seeing what
picked.
he did in the spring and now the good weight that he's put on, he will get picked.
Mhm.
I'm super high on Lowry's floor, like, that. We just gotta see kinda how he flashes this fall. Who else is really involved? I spoke with a scout actually a couple weeks ago, and like Jake Cheney, he may not have, like maybe as tall as some other linebackers, but like He moves well. He's, of course, jacked. He's a leader. That's a guy that you either take a chance on late or you kind of hear
Mhm,
getting a camp invite and then sticks. You know what I mean? Because of
mhm.
how he impresses on and off the field. So, yeah, I think this defense is full of guys, and that doesn't even talk about the younger guys we both feel are locks to get to the league, like Xavier Lucas. I
Yeah,
personally
he's gonna
think
play the
Dylan
league.
Johnson. So it's exciting, man. That's a really good question though. What would you say is like a fair kind of range? I think if you asked me to put it, I would say a top 13 to 15 unit in the country.
So it's hard because and it's a great question, it's a fair question because I kinda kicked it to you, but it's hard because I think it's the talent to be a top 20-ish team, but the schedule may not allow it, right?
Mm,
Oregon has a chance to really put up numbers with the offense they have. I think listen, I know people are hit or miss with Milroe. I think if DeBoer unlocks some stuff there, Bama with the young receivers, they got 11 4 or 5-star receivers on that roster. Like they can put up some numbers. We know Penn State can run the ball. What can Allard do? He's got a new offensive coordinator. I just think there's some spots here where teams could put up numbers against even really good defenses. So that
mhm.
might be hard to be in that top 15-ish range just because of the schedule. Because there's going to be teams like Iowa. Iowa's schedule's dreadful. They have probably a better shot to do that. But I do think the talent is there to talk about being in that range. And really quickly on Pius, like he's going to get drafted because he's going to go to the combine and run 23 miles an hour at 250 pounds with get off.
Yeah,
Like some
yeah.
GM's going to be like, yeah, we're at least using a late round pick on that dude because that's like the measurables are going to be really good. All right, we got to take one more quick break, man. We fly through this show with Nic. He's too good. We'll take one more quick break. We're gonna come back, talk a little ceiling floor, and whatever else Nic wants to talk about. I think we got a couple recruiting nuggets to get into too. We're gonna do that next on Locked On Badgers. But a quick break for our friends of the show over at Game Time. I have a Game Time story for y'all. So I was in Atlanta just last week. My boy and I, Dave, we were got done with training, and we're like, let's go hit a Braves game. Braves Phillies, let's go. Zach Wheeler's pitching. Truist Park's incredible. So we're in the cab. We had a hookup because my buddy Dave used to play in some college, and he had a hookup with Ray King, who used to be in the major leagues, and we were getting free tickets from Ray King, and then Ray King didn't come through. He's now dead to me. But the point is, I had to on the ride over to Truist. I got on Game Time really quick, found us 2 great seats, $56 a pop. Unbelievable value. Me and Dave got unbelievable seats. We ate nachos out of baseball hats. We had multiple beers, and the Braves won 3-1. It was phenomenal. All thanks to our good friends over at Game Time. They absolutely hooked me up. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. All right, let's get Nic back in here. Continue this awesome talk as always with Nic Osen. Nic, where can people find what you're doing?
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, so everything, I'm sending out on Twitter, on X, at the real Nic Osen, and our site. I've been staying busy. It's kind of a slow week for kind of content at times, but I've been talking to different recruits all the time, which we'll kind of wrap the show with. So Badger 247, I've been very grateful. I'm going to say this without revealing too much. I am proud of my coverage from last season, my first one back on this beat. But folks, between game coverage and seeing some recruits this fall, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really intrigued. Ryan, without saying too much right now, I'm paying my way to cover some. So whenever people get super into the recruiting, it really kind of gives me furthermore with energy. So I'm really pumped, and yeah, that's where you can see it. Badger 247.
We got his Twitter down there. Definitely go check out what he's doing. Check him out on Twitter. Check him out on 247. Obviously, a great follow. Been on the show multiple times. You guys know the quality of content he puts out. All right, let's talk a little ceiling floor, and then I want to get in some recruiting nuggets. What is your? I know I caught some of the show you guys did. You did Bucky Report, and you kind of put the ceiling at 11, ceiling at 11. Do you think at 11 is a realistic ceiling? And I don't mean to word it that way and put words in your mouth, but that feels a little high to me on ceiling.
Well, because I'm a literal thinker.
I
I
love it.
am, and I get that from my great mother. So when I hear ceiling, that is like, all right, everything goes right. Everything goes right. This is in the words of Jordan. The ceiling is the roof. This is the roof. This is if everything is perfect. This is what happens with this team. I'm not telling you all that I think, like, all right, you asked me what the record is, I'm saying 11-1. But in terms of ceiling, I'm just very literal. I'd be curious where you have the floor. I'm maybe a little bit too high on that, probably because of the backbone of the defense. But yeah, we'll maybe do like record prediction, or there's a chance we're gonna do another show before that Friday night game. So maybe I'll save that because I'll make the time, brother. But that is why, Ryan. So I'm not telling you, guys, book your tickets to the national championship. Although I do believe they are a sleeper in terms of the playoffs, just because of how respected the Big Ten is too. And we've talked about it, like whether here or on the Bucky Report. I think we have that confidence in the staff and the veteran leadership that they do get one of those marquee games at home. So that's why I say that. But yeah, I believe road games are winnable. And ceiling, I still, I think Oregon is super legit. But I think that Bama game is winnable. I'm picking Wisconsin to beat USC, so then you're just kind of going down the line. So to me, that's why I said 11.
No, I think that's fair. I realized I came off kind of aggressive there. That wasn't the purpose. No, but I think for me, when I look at ceiling, right, I think, okay, let's say what does that ceiling actually look like when you say everything comes together? Well, that means you get a really good version of Tyler Van Dyke, right? You get health on the two lines. Some of the young pieces you're counting on step up and play well. The transfers mesh in pretty quickly, right? There's no culture issues. The coaches figure out how to use all those linebackers pretty quickly.
Defense gets more turnovers.
Defense definitely forces more
Stuff
turnovers. Like the special teams gets a tick better. You get a healthy Vakos who's actually able to hit some of those longer kicks, which flips games, right? You win that 3-point game instead of losing that 3-point game. I think if all of that comes together and there is a way you can squint and see it, I still think there's not a good enough team quite yet to beat 3 out of 4 of the marquee guys and then run the table against everyone else, right? Because, and you and I have talked about this, the meat of the Big Ten is still meaty, right? Like going to Iowa, you got a Nebraska game late, which I think is going to be tricky with Rule. Minnesota can be tricky, even though I think they're not going to be very good. Northwestern beat us last year. Like there's all these little trip up moments, and then you still have Alabama. I just think even if all those things we talked about come together, I don't think this team is quite good enough yet to be that good. But I would say 10. I would say 10 is probably the ceiling. I would say 9 is probably the more realistic ceiling. And I would argue if this team goes 9-3 with this schedule in year 2 of Fickell, I mean, I think that's a tremendous season.
See, but I think, yeah, you didn't come across aggressive, my guy, but I think maybe we think of ceiling a little bit differently then.
Sure.
For example, buddy within kind of the media realm, Rohan over at Fifth Quarter.
Oh, yeah.
We talk, great dude. We talk a lot of NFL. And so, like, if you ask me the ceiling for my Chicago Bears, the ceiling with all the talent they have back with QB Caleb Williams, I'm telling you 12-5, 13-4. Because that is like if everything's falling into place, right? That's not saying if you play this simulation out 100 times, 50 or 60 times, they're winning that many games. So when you're getting kind of talking about like 9 wins, my guy, you're getting a little bit closer to what I actually see happening. Like I think 8 to 9 wins is very doable with this group. I really do. In fact, I said 9-3 on the Bucky Report. I have dug a little bit more into like Penn State. Basically, that's been the team that has kind of had my eye this week because there's been some Aller buzz, and we'll see. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but like I'd always rather be the reporter that sees these things with my eyes. Has faith in these young players and the staff, and overshoots it. That's fine. So yeah, that's why I feel like I'm not going to say undefeated season. They're winning the Natty, but ceiling to me is 11-1, and the absolute bottomed out floor. I mean, I think it's 6. I guess that's probably too high to say for a floor based on the Vegas numbers and things. But I just, you cover practices, you see how these coaches and these players operate. Like you can hear the disappointment from Hunter Wooler or Jake Chaney talking about last year. You can see the intensity in, Coach Fickle or Matt Mitchell's faces, like when they're talking about these are the guys we have, we know what we're capable of. So that's what I believe. That's maybe a little high for an absolute bottomed out floor, but yeah, I think this is a team that finishes higher than they're picked in the Big Ten.
No, I respect it. Like, I like people who take stances, right? Like, if you never take stances, you never get anything wrong, but you never get anything right either. You're always like a tick behind. And I get all sorts of stuff wrong, man. You should have saw my Alexander Smith take from last year. I listen, like, so I respect it. I'm a little lower overall. I think that the depth on the trenches on both sides, I just, it low key is a little terrifying to me, because if I told you, if let's say you're not covering this team, and I said, hey, but you're a smart sports fan, which you are. I said, hey, Nick, we got Team X. Team X is going into a really tough year. They won 7 games last year. Okay. They have iffy depth on both lines, and they're relying on a fifth-year transfer guy that the previous fan base was kind of okay to get rid of at quarterback. I think you would now. It's a lot deeper than that, right? Because there's obviously a lot more context than just those facts. But if you just looked at those things, you would say that might be a rough year for Team X, because you need depth in the trenches, and transfer quarterbacks don't always work out. And I think, to me, when I look at the floor, I think it's probably 5-ish, just because I can see a scenario, because I've lived it as a sports fan. I can see a scenario where you lose 2 offensive linemen in a season, right? And then I just don't think you have the depth, unfortunately. If you have health in the trenches, I think this team can win 9 games, maybe 10, but that doesn't always happen. And I think that could be the kind of hole in the boat, the kind of
Now
anchor.
you make really good points, my guy, as always. And again, I don't want it to seem like I'm downplaying these Big Ten defenses too, or
Yeah.
we'll throw in Bama with them. I know they're SEC, obviously, but like I think of some of the edge rushers or linebackers that some of these teams have, and they have my full respect. I've been on this beat almost a year. I have no issue saying that I just live life optimistically. So there's always going to be that side to it. But again, I have no issue saying that if this group wins, 6 or 7 games, like, and that's like what they hit before the bowl game, there will be a lot of like disappointed,
Mhm.
players and stuff from what they have shared, because they've talked about getting Wisconsin, back to what we were used to, which it maybe wasn't always like flashy at times, but like we were used to 9, 10 wins, even maybe ahead of the bowl game. So I've got a lot of faith in these guys. I know that Justin and I have, questions about USC, but I want to just reiterate, I do think I was a little bit too low on Penn State. And so as the season progresses, that's going to be one of those flip games for me from what I've heard. And I've still got some guys, I speak with that cover Iowa and things like, not sure about that offense, but their defense is
Yeah.
just about as good, So it's going to be intriguing, man. But like you said 10 minutes ago, because we do fly on this show, there's still a lot of meat and potatoes in that Big Ten conference. And
Yeah.
that's why I think it was so beneficial and so important to get somebody that's aggressive in recruiting, like Coach Fickle, that terrific department, assistant coaches that are all in, because I heard somebody saying it recently. I don't remember. You can develop, you can have all the facilities, things like that. You still got to bring the dudes in. And I think these guys are doing that. And that O-line depth is going to be like massive next year, when we're
Agree.
talking about all these dudes in 2025. But really good point, Ryan. You got me thinking a little bit.
So,
Some might say I jumped the gun a little bit on saying 9-3 last week, but I'm going to hold on to it. I'll say 8-9 range. Yeah, I'm going to roll with it.
I don't think it's that crazy. For the record, I have us winning 8, so you're just a game above me on the official prediction.
Okay.
We go 8-4, and like I said, if we go 8-4, to me, that's generally a successful year. If we go 9-3, I think it's a great year. And
To
I
me,
would.
if you get 8, Ryan, you have to me, I mean, because I'm so grateful with this job. I get to speak with fans directly. Like, it seems like the pulse is they really want to see one of those marquee wins at home,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, which I think is doable. Like, I think it happens, whether it's Bama, just that early season punch, whether it's potential night game against Penn State. Like, I see that happening. I don't see Wisconsin losing to Iowa and Nebraska. I'm low on Minnesota. So
I
that
do.
adds up to bare minimum 7 wins, and then you pull off like an upset on the spread. That's at 8. So
That's
yeah.
where I'm at. But I'll point out every fan base every year, just about every fan base, not every fan base. Some of the lucky ones don't have this. Most fan bases every year can look back and say, we lost a game we shouldn't have. And that's very much in the cards because Wisconsin has done it for about 8 straight years. Looking back and saying we shouldn't have lost to Northwestern this year or Minnesota that year, or we all remember the BYU and Illinois games where Wisconsin was 20, 30-point favorites and dropped them. So let's move on quick to recruiting nuggets. And we're already at 35 minutes, man. We just fly through this stuff. It's amazing. But give me one. Give me something you're either excited about, you're tracking. I would love to hear something on the recruiting front here.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple. And, one is just going to be at least when we're kind of chopping it up, just ahead of when I share with some of the readers, but I will be throwing that on shortly. Wisconsin is I would say in an encouraging spot. Nothing like that I'm expecting happening anytime soon. I want to make that clear, but just fortunate to speak with a couple pretty important targets. Top 247 offensive lineman Evan Goodwin. Coach AJ Blazek, Coach Rabach, Coach Fickle, the staff doing a terrific job with that player from Arkansas. Plays for, I believe, Pulaski Academy. Got a lot of big time offers, but Wisconsin really a school to watch there. He'll get back to Madison here in a month or two, later this fall for a game day visit. And then Landyn Locke. I think tight end is going to be a really important position in this class because Wisconsin's in an encouraging spot for several big time targets like Landyn Locke, Gavin Mueller, 4-star Lincoln Watkins. And I think Wisconsin's up there with just about anybody right now for the Princeton, Ohio tight end, Landyn Locke, who will be making, I believe it's his 3rd trip to Wisconsin this calendar year for a game day trip within that first month, Ryan.
Always good stuff, man. Nic Osen over at 247 at the real Nic Osen. And I actually spelled your name right. Like it's little,
Yes, sir.
after a couple shows, I actually spelled your name right. So he is Nic Osen. Go check out his work. As always, very gracious for you coming on, man, making us smarter. I'm Ryan Harings, Locked On Badgers. Appreciate the heck out of everybody tuning in. We will talk tomorrow and on Wisconsin.